let's see, maybe I'll point out a few people just for reference here. Larry Meyer and myself have been leading most of the trail crews in this area. So if you have questions, Larry and I are good people to ask. I'll introduce Chuck Vanette, who's our esteemed chapter president, the politician of the group. And there's a bunch of people who work with us regularly. I don't want to segregate you guys into like more frequent flyers and less frequent, but there are other people, you'll figure it out as you're working, that have been here before, and feel free to ask them about what to do. Let me talk about the rain first, since it's here. This is how we're going to handle rain today. This is a light sprinkle right now. If we get a steady rain, a good steady rain where you're putting on the raincoat, and because you're otherwise going to get good and soaked, we probably ought to knock off work, because these tools have wooden handles and they're going to get slippery, and we don't need anybody getting hurt by mishandling a slippery tool. So this kind of thing, we just kind of work and wait and hope it goes away, but if it gets worse, we'll stop. I think what we're going to do, just looking at the forecast today and looking at the radar, my radar doesn't show any rain anymore. So this, it's either building or it's freak. So I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of try to wait it out if you're up for that kind of thing. If we get a downpour and you want to head back to the car hideout or stand in the trailer, hunker down under a tree, that's fine. But my expectations will probably just get back to work. It's supposed to clear as the day goes on. So I think that's how we'll handle rain, if you're all okay with that. The other thing we typically do when we get started is, although we've kind of changed up the process the last few times, is we have people sign in. There's 2 pieces of paperwork that we need from everybody today. One is a volunteer agreement, and that was attached to the email I sent out earlier to y'all. That is what triggers insurance coverage for y'all. And so that's why that's really important. If you get hurt, you got to be signed up. If you're not signed up and you get hurt, kind of causes problems for the attorneys and the insurance agents and all those people. So if you got that piece of paperwork, hang on to it. We will collect that at lunchtime. A, it'll probably be drier. B, we'll have the notebooks on site then. The other thing we need you to do is fill out a timesheet. The reason why the timesheets are really important is because when we do this work, it's considered a contribution to both the North Country Trail Association, which Andrea is representing today. She's on staff over there. They're going to be doing a little video today. It basically means money to you guys, right? Because you guys get match on that. Plus the federal government, when the Park Service looks at where are volunteers going, they use this as a way of determining where they're going to put resources. So it's really important to document those volunteer hours. What we're going to be doing today is building basically a flat section of trail, which is a little bit, challenging in the sense that if we had our pick, we would tend to put the trail on the side of a hill, so we have some good drainage. But as you go that way, you will see there's no hills. So we're building the trail basically across a fairly flat area. We're going to be using these 3 tools that you see in front of me, and I'll explain what they are. And if you haven't done trail construction before, you're going to learn today that not only do we clip out a corridor of branches, and not only do we put paint on trees, but we also actually build the trail tread itself. Hiking trails don't get built just by marking trees and opening up a clearing and letting people walk it. I mean, that might build your trail, but it doesn't build your quality trail. Our specifications are to actually then build a trail tread. So we're going to teach you how to do that today. It's great that we have a crew this size, because I think we can get this section done today if the weather holds and the cool weather stays. Because you'll find that you build 10, 20, 15 feet and you want to take a break. You build 10 or 20 or 15 feet, you want to take another break, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. But we don't expect anybody here to be a powerhouse. And we had one guy last time. What was his name? Chris. He was like John Henry. I mean, he would have beat the steam engines building this thing. You don't need to be like Chris. I mean, we like Chris. We want him to come back, but you don't need to be like that. I mean, I drive a desk all week, so my back gets tired after doing this for a while, and I got to stop. So if you're in the same position, absolutely do it, and make sure you're working safe. So that brings me to kind of the safety talk. The other thing actually that we should have you signing on, but I'm going to give you an abbreviated version of it, is what we call job hazard analysis. I'm just going to talk about some of the inherent hazards in the job today. So first inherent hazard I'm going to talk about is going to be just environmental hazards, and because of the rain and because of the fall leaves. First hazard is slips, trips, and falls. So just be conscious of that when we walk into the work site, and as we're working, you're going to be working in places where the trail has not been built, so there's likely to be leaf litter, sticks, and other things like that on the ground. So just be mindful of that, and watch your footing. Fortunately, we have pretty soft soil here, so if you do take a trip, hopefully you won't get hurt. The other thing that trips people up is the tools. So make sure when you're not using a tool that you place it off the trail. Don't hide it in the woods because we've got to find it later, but place it off the trail, as well as your backpacks and things like that. The other environmental hazards today, well, I don't think there's going to be lightning, but they did call for some high winds at times. I think they may be gone by now, but if the high winds do start up, if it gets really windy, we will stop working and come back and get helmets. If the wind is low, we don't necessarily need the helmets. But the hazard is obviously there's lots of branches up there. It gets windy, they come down. Don't want anybody to get hit in the head with it. I always thought that was kind of a funny thing to talk about in terms of the safety talk. But a couple of years ago, we were out building the bridge, and it was a very windy day, and we had the helmets on, and I saw stuff dropping in the woods. And I was like, I'm glad I got this thing on my head. So, no ticks this time of year. Don't worry about them. No bears, I don't think. If you see any wildlife, stay away. So most of our rest of our hazards have to do with tools, I think. The tools we're going to be using, this guy's good and heavy, called a McLeod. They all have a sharp edge somewhere. And so in terms of safety, be mindful of that sharp edge. So number one thing you got to be concerned with is your own feet. That's why we encourage sturdy boots in this work, because you're going to be swinging this around and you don't want to catch your own toe. Second thing you want to be mindful of is the guy working next to you. You don't want to catch him in the shin. Okay, so spread out, give yourselves plenty of room. And the third thing to be mindful of is as we're walking in, we carry our tools down by our sides like this. We don't carry them like this because this makes a really good weapon, right? And if I see something or I trip, or if I trip, it's coming down on my own head. If I see something and turn quickly, I may not know Larry's behind me. I catch him in the cheek. So we always carry these down by our side. The rest of the safety talk is we will have a first aid kit out on site. We'll bring that in. Sometimes we work our way away from it. So it might be down the trail a little bit. If you need a first aid for anything, Benadryl for a bee sting, aspirin for a headache, or bandages, we do have those here. If there's a more severe injury of sorts that requires attention from an urgent care center or a hospital, just make sure Larry or I know. And then we have a kit that should go with you when you go to the hospital so that your bills are paid for. Okay, so now to the tools real quick. 3 tools we'll be using today. Typically we would use a leaf blower, a Pulaski, and a McLeod, but our leaf blower is absent today. So scouts are going to become our leaf blowers for at least the beginning of the day, because we have a lot of folks, and this will get you guys warmed up. So scouts, I'm going to give you guys, this is called a fire rake. It's nothing fancy other than a garden rake on steroids. It's got kind of a sharp end, so it takes out little small trees. And we're going to have you go down the trail corridor, which I'll show you in a moment first, and you're just going to rake all the loose stuff off, because it makes everybody's job easier as they come behind you to make the trail, to have all that loose stuff out of the way. And you're going to go, 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 go until you get to where the trail, you're going to get to a point where you're like, it looks like they already built trail here. And you can stop, come back, report in. I see one scout leader here. Is there another leader with the scouts? Okay, one. Okay, so all the scouts, one green and red guy. Names? Nate and Mike. You're Mike. Okay, great, Mike. Nice to meet you. So maybe you guys want to put one up front, one up back, however you want to handle it with scouts. When you're done with that working, you may get done more quickly. There is when you get to the section that's built, if you follow that section, you will come to another boardwalk back in the woods. Okay, it's kind of a raised boardwalk. You go across that boardwalk, and there's another little section beyond that boardwalk, probably a couple hundred yards, and then eventually you will get to the North Country Trail, which is what we're connecting this trail up to. You could go ahead and do that section as well. I don't think there's going to be a lot of debris in that section, but you might as well go scout it out and get it cleared off too. So that's kind of where scouts are going to start. Again, this is called fire rake. The rest of us are going to be working primarily with McLeods, and this is the difficulty we have with the big crew. I'm going to have to talk to our friend Jeff at the Forest Service and say, we need another 5 McLeods, because we've been fielding some big crews, which is a great thing. The problem we end up having is we're a little short on tools because we have about 10 or 12 of these. But McLeod is what many of you will be using. And this is going to be a tool to build tread, which I'm going to show you back in the woods. And then the third tool that we have is Pulaski McLeod. This is the Irish tool, Scottish. Pulaski, the Polish tool. Pulaski has an adze end on one side and an axe on the other. This is our digging end. We're going to be using this if we have roots in the trail or other obstructions that we need to get out of the way. It's basically a digging tool, even though it looks like a cutting tool. We dig primarily with this end. We try to save the sharp edge, somewhat sharp edge, on this edge for when we need to do the serious cutting. So if we find a root, we grub it out with this end, and then when we can clearly see the root where it is, we cut it out with the sharp end. The biggest trick with this particular tool, and not everybody will have one of these, we'll have a couple of them on the line, is that if you're grubbing in the ground, that's cool, you know, you're not really going to harm anybody, but when you have to go and swing this tool to chop your root, if you're using it, I want you to, before you do it, look around, see who's around, and actually before you swing, you actually yell out, swing, and then go at it. That way, if you looked around and for some reason somebody's hiding behind you, you don't catch them in the chin, okay? So just holler a good swing before you swing that. Anytime it comes up and over your waist, I want you to yell swing. So I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything, Larry? Any questions from anybody? I'll show you actually how to do the build once we get onto the trail. Your good teachers always make this uncomfortable silence to make sure those questions come up. Come on. Oh, come on. Somebody wants to know what time lunch is. It's at noon, right? Or 12:30. 12:30. Look at that. We're going to really squeeze the work out of you.